My name's Angus, I'm from the Hoxton Special Kite School, and with me are Ben and Jimmy. Got the right way around, thank God.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, from Fitness World, and I just want to thank you guys for coming and having a chat with us today. Basically I have a large kite surfing, wakeboarding background, and I wanted to talk to you about sort of strength, muscle soreness and things like that, and any advice you could give aspiring riders who are trying new tricks and new things.
Okay, yeah, pleasure. So, how long have you been kite surfing yourself?
So give you a bit more background. Like I've been kite surfing about 4 years now. I've been teaching for about 4 years now. 2 years ago I injured myself trying something silly.
Yeah.
And since then, like my interest in kind of strength, fitness, flexibility has grown quite substantially as a kind of a way of protecting myself, when I'm trying new moves. It's just been a real sort of journey of sort of try and see, reading a lot of stuff, watching a lot of people, but never really knowing myself what's good, what's bad.
Cool.
So for me, I suppose this would be really interesting just to have a little bit of professional advice and see what you guys have to offer.
It's great you've realised there's a link between strength training and performance as well as injury prevention. There's a lot of guys who do sports and they don't realise the importance of strength training. For instance, surfers, I just go, I'm going to surf. To get better at surfing, all I'm going to do is surf. Or runners are the worst for it. We find runners, all they want to do is run all day long, but they don't think about the implications. If you're just doing the same plane of movement all the time, i.e. a surfer from the lats all day long in the traps, they're going to get a lot of postural issues. And those postural issues eventually going to cause them problems along the line, and their surfing is going to plateau. And
also, like the later you introduce strength training, it tends to be harder or take longer to correct, like the faults. Like going back to like the surfers, for instance, a lot of the time they get real sort of trap heavy and like lat heavy, and not the serratus, which helps to work on the shoulder, helps to put it into the right position, gets really weak, and it just takes a lot longer. So if they're new to the sport, they can correct those postural issues a lot easier than say someone who's later down the line who's never really addressed those issues. So
are you guys saying that my ideas of trying a new trick are very similar? Like you have two options. You either keep trying and keep failing, and slowly but surely you'll build the strength necessary to do that trick, or you could try it once, realise that you're too weak to do it, and go train specifically for that and come back to it later.
So you could go over the skill over and over again, but if there's a part of your body that's weak, 9 times out of 10 your body finds the easiest way out. So say you're weak in the lat and you can't stabilise through, or as Ben was saying, the serratus, you can't get the elevation of the shoulder and you need that for the trick. Your body will find a way around it, so your trap will get really strong. So you may do the trick, but you're going to do it in some sort of funky posture, and that's going to cause more implications, And
you're going to become like unbalanced.
100%, yeah, definitely.
100%. So any sportsman sort of in a sense wants to be they want to tailor their body to that sport. So you're going to be, in a sense, you want to be unbalanced. For instance, like a sprinter, they might get real tight hip flexors. So say if you had like Usain Bolt here, he might if you looked at him posturally, he'd probably be pretty screwed up.
Massive butt
and like hip flexors super tight and things like that. If you went in there and just corrected it all, you'd probably make him really bad at the sport. Do you know what I mean? So so you have to because you're focusing at a skill, you have to sacrifice a certain amount of flexibility or perfect sort of postural balance, whatever that is. But you want to limit the damage that causes. You can't replace skill with strength. That's one thing I would say. This skill definitely has for any sort of sport, it has the most, the highest priority, because you have to skills you just have to basically drill into your body.
Sure.
But definitely for limiting sort of like damage and long lasting, as Jimmy's going into a little bit, like the long lasting sort of repercussions of not really dealing with like those imbalances.
And I think it'll make the skill a lot easier. I mean, if you're strong enough to beat yourself in those positions and hold those positions, the skill is going to be easy, If you're not strong, if you've never done strength training, it's going to take you twice as long to get that skill.
That's true.
Where if you're strong in those planes of movement already, or across the plane of movements, you're just strong. You've got across the board.
So what you guys are saying essentially is that strength training, in general, will help you to become better at, say, sports in a kind of intermediate sense. And unless you're like say Usain Bolt, just generally training is going to help you in all sorts of ways.
I still think there should be some element of sport-specific training.
Right.
which in turn it gets chucked around a bit too much. But it's definitely has its
Yeah.
place.
Oh god. Yeah. Yeah. That was probably a little bit of an error on my part the way I described that. I mean, he'd, for instance, any sprinter, like their strength training will be a massive part of their progression.
Yeah.
And like, if anything, you probably need to keep on doing it. But like, trying to correct, like trying to find like that perfect posture isn't like the only,
Right.
isn't like the main sort of thing with strength training.
Okay.
It's,
A good coach will know. So if you say, this is the muscle groups I use for wakeboarding,
Yeah.
this is the movement I've got to do, they should be able to look at that and go, okay, you're weak here, or these are the muscles that you need to develop to become better at your sport.
Yeah.
I.e., wakeboarding, for instance, the guys here, if they've got a weak grip, they're going to burn out holding onto that, in their lats. If they're not strong here,
Yeah.
the first thing is going to go to the forearms, they're going to drop in the bar all day long.
Yeah.
So a good coach is going to go, okay, if you're going to be a good wakeboarder, you're going to have a strong grip. And there's really simple ways to train the grip, but you've got to just know what you're doing and how to do it. So I would recommend always seeking out some sort of coach or personal trainer who's
Okay.
worth their weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So, I mean, that brings me quite nicely to another question that I was going to ask, which is that, like kite surfing especially, you go out, it's incredibly intensive sport, you take a lot of beatings, and then what I find is that, I have to have a rest day. It's as if I've gone out and I've been to the gym or I've done a workout. Yeah. So how would you fit in a sort of a training program around something that is quite intensive like that?
That's a good question. It's I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't train twice a day. So you may feel beat up. So say you did wakeboarding in the morning.
Yeah.
If you focused on a skill element in the morning, so it's a trick you want to get, all morning you focus on that. In the evening, you could then do a basic strength program. And if you're focusing on strength, it shouldn't be too taxing, as in like muscle soreness.
Yeah.
It'll be more nervous system sort of style.
Okay.
For instance, if you did like a thick bar chin-ups, you could do 8 sets of 2 of those, and into some nice sort of deadlifting movement, and that could be it. Just those 2 movements, just a lot of sets.
but bang for your buck, really, isn't it? So you don't want to, if you think you don't want to, completely destroy yourself in the gym if your main focus is wakeboarding or kite surfing. So you don't want to spend all your energy in the gym when your main goal is actually kite surfing. So you want to be efficient with your time, basically.
Sure. So would you say that, I mean, you were saying sort of 8 sets of 2, right? So would you say that sort of a frequent, small amount of training might be a better way to go than sort of like 2 big days in the gym a week?
When it comes to strength, if that's your main goal, and for most sports, unless you're doing something where you need a bit of hypertrophy, which is size.
Right.
So if you're like a big wave surfer, for instance, it'd probably benefit to put a bit of size on. Keep it in water sports, but rugby players, as a classic, they need to put size on. They need to be big guys generally. So functional hypertrophy, they call that. But for what you guys do, strength would be the main thing. Strength and stability. So sport specific. Yeah. So high set, low reps is the best way. So you're just like accumulating. Up on it. So like the chin ups, for instance, 8 sets of 2 would be spot on, isn't it? Dog.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, going into like I do a lot of sort of bodyweight training. I don't belong to a gym. One thing that I do is sort of push-ups, and then I will try and make them more difficult. Would you say that sort of doing your 8 sets of 2, would you want to do like sort of standard push-ups, or would you want to make them as difficult as possible? Or
with bodyweight, it's hard. It's all about progressive overload. So you want to constantly be changing how you hit the body,
right?
So adapting it and overloading it. So, for instance, if you're doing bodyweight like push-ups all the time, I imagine you're pretty strong. I don't know how many do you do in a set.
I don't know, sort of probably do about 3 sets of 12.
3 sets of 12. So that's quite a lot. I mean, if you broke that down to say like 20 sets of 2, you're probably not going to feel that much different because the load's not there.
Right.
So an easy way out of that would be to load the push-up. So i.e. get some weight on you, either like a vest or getting a friend to load something onto your back. Just basically so then it's more challenging.
Yeah, or you
for
could do like a more difficult progression, like legs in the air maybe, or.
I mean that would work, but then you're coming more into sort of, I think that'd be more core control rather than working on your upper body strength.
Oh, I see.
I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Although it still takes a lot of upper body strength. I'm not gonna.
Yeah. So I mean you'll be changing the angle. Hello, Mr. Cricket, little guest join us. Yeah, he's probably right. So you just needs to be a different stimulus basically.
Yeah.
That's the only downside with body weight. Okay. But I mean the way through that is to add load in some way. So yeah, if you don't have access to a gym or you can't afford it, then just finding a way of loading it. Right, you get chin ups.
Yeah.
Awesome free movement. You know, something you can do pretty much anywhere.
8 sets of 2 would work on that, or 10 sets of 2.
Exactly, and you can develop a lot of strength, upper body strength with that body weight movement. That's, you know, definitely a really good bang for buck movement. And then you could easily overload that with a little bit of, say, you could start weighting it with a vest again, or hanging something from your feet.
A really quick, easy way to do that as well is it's called your eccentric contraction. So when you're lowering the face, so on the way down the push-up, if you can bash out 3 sets of 12, try doing 3 sets of 12, but you're taking 10 seconds to lower down. That's going to be a progressive overload. So you're changing the stimulus and you're changing the way you overload that muscle.
I imagine that would be much more difficult.
Yeah, especially if you're holding tight. You know, a lot of people do push-ups and the head comes down, the hips drop. If you're doing a textbook push-up and you're keeping it slow,
it's hard work.
If you get to doing like 10 seconds down there, you need to start doing some heavy weight.
Yeah, if you do it for 12 reps, 10 seconds. Yeah. I mean.
Nice. So okay, this is all like massively fascinating, but like most kite surfers that I know don't strength train, you know, and they won't, or they don't strength train, they don't stretch, they don't warm up, these things. So if you were going to give, you know, a kite surfer a bit of advice about exercises to do, what would you say maybe was something that they could do at home that would improve them?
Definitely the pull-up again, just because it's something you can work on, you can progress like at home. You can get a pull-up bar pretty easily.
Pull-ups and chin-ups.
Pull-ups and chin-ups, and again, you do sort of need to know how to do them properly. And if you can't already do pull-ups to straight away, it can be a little bit disheartening to start with until you can sort of break through the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I when I started, you know, 2 years ago trying to do a pull-up, I could barely kind of, you know, get my arms bent, you know, and that was it was actually a long time before I got my first straight pull-up, and I still struggle with more than 5, you know. I mean, they're pretty intense movement.
And playing with the timing, so like the eccentric contraction again, if you're doing chin-ups all the time, changing it every 4 times you do it, or 3 times, you're not always in the same, you're not always going to do 3 sets of 10, so you do 3 weeks, 3 sets of 10, the next week you're going to do 3 sets of, or like 8 sets of 2, or you could do 3 sets of 10, but you're going to take 5 seconds to come down. So you're going to change the way you're hitting it, or simply bring your grip in. Otherwise the body's incredibly adaptive, and you're not gonna have that progressive overload which you need. I mean, for legs, I mean the best exercise I would say for you guys would be a front squat, because you're going to work all your back, your core's got to be super tight, you can't cheat it, and it's going to work those quads. But at home, I don't know.
It's a little bit harder at home. Getting, or like maybe chipping in with a few mates to get a bar would be worth it. Just because the amount of load that you get from barbell work, you can't really stimulate. It's like holding a kettlebell or holding something in your hands. You're limited by how strong your shoulders are. So you're never going to be able to. You know, we get beginners. You know, they might not be able to hold like a 20 kilogram kettlebell, but straight away they can put maybe 40 kilograms, double the weight, straight on their back. So they won't be able to hold 20, but 40 they could squat. So, and that stimulus, the amount of contraction you get through the muscle tissues, you know, it's completely different. So, and going back to the squats are really, really good also for taking the impact, especially with things like kite surfing. I'm sure the amount of impact you'll be getting through your legs, it teaches you to.
Air, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I literally just recently wrote an article about this exact thing, which is that the few of us that do train tend to train for a handle pass, which is, you know, taking the bar and slinging it round behind you, which is a lot of shoulders and core, and we forget about our knees and our ankles. And
you normally forget until it's too late.
So until you're coming down and you think, oh.
And you watch someone land, you watch 9 times out of 10 the knees will come in, or they'll land funny, and that's generally because their legs aren't strong enough, their glutes aren't strong enough to take the impact, or their VMO, which is the muscle that stabilises the knee, isn't doing its job. You know, so you need to look at overloading that.
So this is quite interesting. So a common injury actually in kite surfing is like sort of the knee tearing the ACL, that kind of thing. And would you say that's directly related to like how strong your legs are?
Massively. If you think about like the loads, even in just sprinting, say like football or rugby, if you sprint in a particular direction and you change direction, it can be up to like 4 times your own body weight going through your joints. So if you think about getting up in the air, getting pulled up in the air on a board and then hitting the water, I mean, God knows what that type of load is going through your body. So if you think of squatting as almost a way of teaching yourself how to take a load through the joint. So what it's called is like deceleration. So i.e. teaching your body how to decelerate or take the impact.
Yeah.
So squatting, I would say, is like essential really. So and front squats as well, because they put a little bit more load on the VMO. You could even elevate the heels, so do it slightly elevated just to get a bit more into your VMO.
Cool.
You can't cheat the front squat either.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see a lot of guys, if you haven't got a PT or coach to look over you, a lot of guys will do a back squat and they won't go all the way down, or look more like a good morning. Do you know, a good morning is when you sort of just tilt from the hips and your ass sticks up in the air and it looks awful. Yeah, terrible, right? Yeah. But a front squat, you can't do that. You can cheat the range, but you can't duck. As soon as you duck, your elbows drop, you're going to drop the bar, or you come up
your
like
wrists,
this, you know.
Start getting annoyed.
So if you do it right, a front squat done right shouldn't be comfortable. It should feel like you're choking yourself and it's the worst feeling in the world. So never do more than like 6 reps, really. But it's going to keep you nice and tight. Your cross here, you know, all your back muscles are working to stabilise you. Your core's working overload, and then you're going to work the muscles that are going to help with that impact when you land from a big jump.
Awesome. So I mean, you know, jumping big obviously means that, you know, some of the time you're going to come down really quite hard, and quite often it's not on your feet, it's on your face. And you know, and I mean, I suppose that's a different type of soreness, but muscle soreness is something that we encounter quite a lot, you know, especially up in the sort of arms and over the chest. And I suppose, would you guys have any advice for anyone?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing is, what you often find is people are, it's a normal thing, and any time you have a new stimulus on your body, it's going to induce some type of muscle soreness. If you try out a new sport, even say you probably felt that even coming from like maybe kite surfing, going onto wakeboarding, you might find you suddenly had DOMs when you didn't expect it, just because there's muscle groups slightly different stimulus. So it's not in itself, it's not, you know, it's sort of a positive, because it shows a sign of, you know, that you're working, your body's working.
Basically, muscle soreness, as DOMS, as Ben said, it's a delayed onset of muscle soreness. So it's like the day after, or the day after, the day after sort of thing. And that's when you feel sore. But when we train or we do something new and you're contracting a muscle, we're ripping it. So you're creating these little tears in the muscle, and then you're ready to really repair those is with protein. A lot of people don't eat enough. A lot of people are scared of protein. It's been a lot of bad media about it. But if you think the first 20 grams of protein you consume, your body uses that for detoxification. Then after that, you know, it's repairing tissues and brain function.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I see like loads of adverts for dudes, and they're just all sort of like sweated up or oiled up, and they're like, you know, Mr. Whey Protein Mega Man.
It doesn't
help, does it?
It doesn't help, no. But it doesn't work like that either, unfortunately. That's really poor advertising, because I've been buying it for years.
still working on it.
I mean, you guys, so what type of protein are you talking about? You're talking like a protein shake, or just like some sort of chicken, or?
So food's a great source. Always food over anything else. For whey protein, what's really good about it, it's the fastest way to get protein in your body. If you do take it, it's worth getting what's called whey isolate, which is pure, basically. It's the cleanest way you can get. There's no sugar or raw carb in there, and it will act straight in your body. As soon as you get out the water, neck one of those and you feel good recovery. On top of that, BCAAs, which are branched chain amino acids. You get it in liquid form, and it generally comes in berry flavour, because the only way you can disguise its rank flavouring is with berries. But if you drink that throughout the day, or when you wake up and something, or ideally during training, I know it's hard in the water, but maybe get like a camel pack and you just sip BCAAs and that would work. But that's going to really help, because as you're breaking the muscle down, your body's wanting those, and you're feeding it. So
I'd probably, especially for like a community where they might not look so cool to start necking a shake afterwards, like BCAAs will probably be a really good way, because you can just chuck it in your drinks bottle.
You get it in tablet form as well, but it's always good to, I mean, I take them all day long.
It's just, if you think about it, protein, it's just one of the main fuel sources. It's just a food, isn't it? So it's just because it's been hyped so much, and like the way that it's sold, you know, whey isolates and stuff like that, it just puts everyone off. But it's, what is it? If you look at it, all it is just a basic food source, isn't it? So
fast acting protein, good for your body, man.
Cool. And that's a decent way to sort of relieve, or
it'll make a huge difference to your recovery.
Massive.
I mean, you're still going to feed it. I mean, you can go really technical. You can go to like hot baths or ice baths afterwards for like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. But to be honest, a protein shake and BCAAs is going to make a big difference to you guys. Stretching as well. Stretching, you want to do it, but not afterwards. So if you think I don't know how much you get in wakeboarding or kite surfing, but imagine when you get out, your forearms feel quite swollen, like pumped up. your chest and your back, you know, 'cause you've been holding tight.
Yeah, everything feels quite tight.
So that's a lot of blood in the muscle. If you try and stretch that straight off the bat, you're more likely just going to stretch your tendons.
Right.
So you've got to wait about 3 to 6 hours before you stretch off.
Yeah, you can do like little like mobilizing ones where you're not going really deep, just to sort of maintain.
Yeah.
You just maintain a little bit, but you're not. If you're trying to really wrench into deep stretches, all you're going to do is stretch, like Jimmy was saying, stretch the tendons out, which is not the idea.
So I mean, stretching. This is quite a sort of a large subject, and there's a lot of sort of controversy, or not controversy, but different opinions about sort of stretching and whatnot. But what do you guys feel about like warm-ups and things like that? And should you stretch before?
Not necessarily stretching, but a warm up massively. Yeah.
So what you call like dynamic stretching.
Just getting mobile. Yeah. Getting your mobility up.
Absolutely.
So get like a general warm up, i.e. getting your whole body warm, and then getting and then more the specific areas in the body weights you're going to use, i.e. your back and your legs and stuff like that. So even just like body weight squats, a little bit of sprints up and down the beach once you're generally warm will definitely help. And then band stuff for warming up your back would be really, really good. Just so you're not hitting the exercise, especially if you can imagine, especially as you start to get a bit more advanced, you're probably more likely to go straight into like the big movements, big sort of power moves. And then if you're really cold or stiff, you're more likely just to start hurting yourself as well. So
especially going straight into like cold water.
Yeah.
It's there's loads of stuff online or just YouTube. You search like basic mobility warm up, you can get a good idea, and you can probably draw one up yourself that's quite specific to kite surfing or wakeboarding.
The good thing as well with like a pre warm up and pre mobility is it sort of acts as like a little check, because you every day you wake up, your body's different, it's tighter in different areas and looser in different areas as well, or you just might not be feeling very great, or you might have tweaked it the day before, not really realised. So if you just go straight into the water, you might then really hurt yourself. But if you go through some mobility beforehand, you can sort of start moving your arm, moving yourself around like full range, and suddenly you feel like a little pull in your chest or somewhere in your shoulder or something. You go, well, actually, you might then take it a little bit easier on stuff which might pull into the muscle. You'll be a bit more aware of it, and then sort of hopefully reduce the risk of really hurting yourself.
Awesome. I mean, that's a really interesting way of looking at warm-ups. It's like a sort of a pre-system diagnostic as to whether or not you're ready for what you're about to do.
Definitely, yeah.
We use it all the time. With a PT client comes to us and we start going through a mobility drill, and you can see they're wincing doing a shoulder roll or something. Something's up. You can't. You've got a big pressing session plan. You can't. Yeah. It just makes no sense to then go, okay, you tweaked your shoulder, but just put 80 kilos in the bar. If you haven't done that pre-mobilisation of them, you wouldn't know that, or screening.
Cool. That's been an awful lot of information. It's been really good.